Welcome to the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel. I'm at Helinski. Today we are taking a trip down memory lane to Niagara Falls, LaSalle High School in the mid-1970s. This gentleman was an outstanding athlete at LaSalle High School in football, baseball, track, and swimming. He also became a Niagara Falls Sports Hall of Famer in 2001. Prominent insurance businessman in the Niagara Falls area. Please welcome Joel Holka. Joel, good to have you. How's things in your neck of the woods?
Well, depending on when you look out the window, it's raining, then it's sunny, then it's raining, then it's sunny. So,
well, it's spring in New York State. Go figure, you know?
Right, that's right.
Want to talk to you about your high school career, but better yet, before we get into that, you growing up in Niagara Falls and how you got involved in sports.
Well, my dad was a big influence. My family loves this story. When I was a kid, we lived downtown on Forest Avenue. I hadn't even started school yet. And we're watching a Bills game on the black and white TV. This has got to be in the early 60s. And Cookie Gilchrist breaks the long run for a touchdown. My dad's screaming and screaming. And as a kid, I must have been stunned that I'm wondering why he's yelling at the TV. And so he looks at me, he sees me looking all kind of puzzled. And he goes, "You don't understand." And I wasn't even 5 yet. Now I understand. So now I'm the nut job screaming at the TV and getting the dog barking, wife scaring the heck out of her. But my dad was an athlete. He went into the Hall of Fame quite a few years ago in the Sports Hall of Fame. He was a great diver. He was undefeated his senior season at Niagara Falls. So he kind of, he pushed me into it, and I'm thankful for it. He was very, he taught me how to do it right. Or at least try to. He picked me up from a Tyrol football practice one time, and I told him, it was really cold today. I didn't run my sprints as hard as I could because it was so cold. And he goes, "Well, let me ask you a question." He goes, "If you play in a game that's real cold, you're not going to run real hard." And I said, "Well, I guess he got me there." So he just kind of got me on the right track of how to do it. Brought me to Bills games. I used to go to games at Mohr Memorial Stadium with him. He just exposed me to sports, and I fell in love with him.
Your dad was also, from what I read, was a national pull-up champion.
Yeah, oh, you found that? Yeah, he did 40 some pull-ups when I think he was 13, something crazy like that. There was a really cool picture that got ruined when they had some water in the basement one time. He was black pants, no shirt, up on the chin-up bar. The brush cut, the high brush cut. Yeah, he was a Northeastern pull-up champ. It was 41, 42, 43. It was crazy when he was 13.
You also, when you were younger, was the Niagara Falls punt, pass, and kick champion. Won that, and I guess it was a regional competition that you won at Hyde Park Stadium.
Yeah, you do good investigative work. I was 13 and I won at Niagara Falls at Hyde Park, and then I went to Buffalo, Delaware Park the next week. And had I matched my score in Niagara Falls, I would have advanced there too. But they take off for inaccurate punts. It's a straight line, and then they just take off the distance you are away from it. And it's funny because I played Tyrol ball then, and I would have had, if I had won the second one, I would have had to have made a decision the next week because that was at halftime of a Bills game, and I had a Tyrol football game on that day. So that never had to be figured out. But yeah, I did that. Man, I was 13 at the time. Growing
up in Niagara Falls, who were some of the coaches that you played for when you got to the junior high school level and of course, over at LaSalle High School?
Yeah, my main coaches were at LaSalle were Nick Tate, Jerry Serdick, Terry Burgess, and Don Chamberlain. Those were the four varsity coaches. I played from 10th grade on. I played varsity. Okay. And those were the three guys the four guys that I had them pretty much all the whole time.
Did you play much when you were a sophomore?
No, I did a lot of special teams. got to start one game because of the guy ahead of me was being disciplined. So he sat out, and I played one game against Wheatfield. And I had a big play in that game, and boy, did that go to my head. It just made me It made me feel good just to see to feel something that you've accomplished at that level.
Talk about the field at LaSalle High School and how big your squad was.
The field itself, the physical field.
Yes.
It was one of the best ones around, and we didn't have any of this artificial stuff. That was one of the nicest fields around. It was crowned beautifully, for drainage. Beautiful field. We'd always have 40 plus guys on the team. They actually had to cut. These days you're lucky if you can get that many kids out for football, but they had to cut guys back in our day.
What were some of the biggest challenges for you playing varsity football in the 70s?
No, I can't think of any challenges. I mean, basically, it was just for us, for the LaSalle part of it, they had always had there was always good athletes on from year to year, but it really didn't translate into victories. My sophomore year, we were 4-4. Junior year, 2-6, and then the senior year we had was outstanding. We had a record-setting team and all that. But I guess the challenge was without having a tradition, trying to get everybody in the same mindset that you got to work hard. And that senior year was really something. Again, no tradition for us to build off of. But my senior year was class of. I graduated 76, so this would have been 75 season. And we had guys that worked out all on their own. We had a lot of team camaraderie in the off season prior to this football season. Couple quick cool stories about that season itself. We won our first game against Grand Island, lost our only game the next game against Williamsville North, 20-15. And the one, it actually kind of bugs me every once in a while when I think about it. The only way they scouted back then was our JV coaches would go to the game, the week before. They'd go to the varsity game. Well, there's a Williamsville North, South, and East. And you were supposed to go north, and I think they went south. So we never scouted this Williamsville North team that ended up winning the whole thing. We knew they had this really fast running back. Last name was Broughton. And so we were prepared for sweeps, and they ran a triple option. And that's not brain surgery to figure out how to defend it, but it's a discipline that you have to practice because you tend to want to go here when you just have a responsibility that you have to stay with. We had to figure that out during the game. We didn't know that they did that. And the running back, or the fullback, I should say, and their quarterback were both very good runners. So we were kind of behind the 8 ball, and we still lost by 1 score. So anyways, we lose that game. The next week, there was a Western New York teacher strike. So now our season's put on hold. The coaches couldn't coach us. So we had to practice on our own. We went to the school. We had a couple playgrounds. We practiced on our own for a week. And then we got back to the season. The strike ended a week later. And we had to make up a game. So we played our next scheduled game on a Saturday, a makeup game on a Tuesday, and the next scheduled game on a Saturday. So in 8 days, we played 3 games. We won something with total, the grand score was something like 104-26. We won all 3 of those games like that. So I thought that was, to me, that was big, because after that second game, when we lost it, without a winning tradition, we could have fell apart. We could have just fell back into the mediocre teams, but we had guys that really cared about football. So, but if I go back to the preseason, the interesting thing there was we scrimmaged Orchard Park. And later on, we find out there were 3 pro football players on that team.
Right.
Larry Foll, who played for the Montreal Alouettes and then became pro wrestling's Lex Luger. Jim Burt, nose guard for the Giants that beat us in the Super Bowl. And Craig Wolfley, starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those 3 guys were on one high school team. And they were big boys. But we played them straight up. Nobody scored on each other. It was one of those controlled scrimmages. So anyways, we had a good team. We went all the way to the end of that year. We were 6-1. Another cool tidbit there is we were losing at halftime. We won 7 games. We went 7-1. We were losing at halftime in 6 of them. So we were always the second half team. End of the year, we played Lewiston-Porter, who back then was dominant. I mean, they were the year prior, they had 1 touchdown scored on them the whole year. So we're playing them in what the papers described as the game of the year, the Western New York game of the year. 2,500 people there, which is massive for a football game around here. We're playing, we're 6-1, Lewiston-Porter's 6-1. You probably heard about a couple of these guys. They had Tommy Blinko.
Went to Ohio State. Yeah.
Yeah, for Woody Hayes. He played for
Right.
Woody Hayes. He passed away recently, unfortunately. And they had Mark Zaya. He went to Notre Dame to play for Dan Devine. These guys are kind of like men amongst boys. You know, they were big dudes, and they were not the only good players on that team. They had a lot of good players, a lot of good athletes. We won 10-8. It was just a defensive struggle back and forth, and it was really, really crazy. And it was cool because at the end of the game, all these people were coming out on the field to congratulate us because it was, a big thing. Coach Tate was getting interviewed by one of the newspapers, and we, in the middle of his interview, we put him on our shoulders and carried him off. It was like the last scene in Rudy. Yeah, there we go. So it was a cool scene. We go back to the school, and it had rained pretty hard the night before, so there's this big long mud puddle. Guys were diving in it like a slip and slide and being silly. The coaches were diving in the thing. It was so cool. Everybody was having a good time. People were still coming to congratulate us. And the funny part is our principal was Mr. Sadeo, Bill Sadeo. Pretty strict guy. And he's walking into the locker room and he's smiling, and I'm thinking, man, when he sees a couple bottles of champagne and a couple cigars going around, this isn't going to be good. He walks in, he looks around, he sees what's going on, and he leaves. Said nothing ever about it at all. I saw him years later. I told him about that. He chuckled. And I said, that was probably the coolest move you ever made, Mr. Sadeo. And he caught a chuckle. He passed away a few years ago at age 99.
Wow.
So
that game
anyway.
against Lewiston-Porter, you guys put a real defensive number on Blinko. From what I understand, he only ran for 80 some odd yards for being a premier back in Western New York. I mean, congratulations to you guys on quite that accomplishment and winning a hard-fought game 10-8. That means you got to kick a field goal somewhere along the way as well too. So, and back in high school football, back then and even today, it's not really a common thing.
No, you're right. It was funny because my roommate, I went to Canisius afterwards. My roommate Jimmy Wheatfield, he was a stud defensive lineman. He's the guy everybody remembers when you say you played in LaSalle. They go, oh, Wheatfield, because he was an animal. Our fullback got hurt at the beginning of the game, and then Jimmy was we put him in at fullback too. Now Jimmy was he was just a large, round person, strong guy. So anyways, he scored on a real short run from the goal, a couple yards out. He kicked the extra point because he did that. And we didn't kick a field goal all year until that game. And he kicked the field goal. And it was really something. He also made the play of the game at the end, which was really cool being out there. They had to go for it on 4th down because it was like a minute left. And they tried some kind of reverse or Statue of Liberty play, something like that. And Jimmy snuffed it out behind the line of scrimmage. And this collective roar in the stadium was so cool to be on the field to hear that. You don't hear that at high school games because there were people, the stands were filled, and it was a couple deep all the way around the track. And it was so cool. Yeah, Jimmy made the play, and he kicked that field goal, and one time only, and it was huge.
When you played, it was a transition from the old Niagara Frontier League and more into the Section 6 football league, where you were playing schools of the same enrollment.
Right.
What were you a fan of the old Niagara Frontier League growing up and watching LaSalle play or Niagara Falls play when you were a kid?
Yeah, it was cool, and it seemed like it stayed pretty much the same. I looked through our records after you would contact me. We didn't play NT. We played Tonawanda for those couple of years. We didn't play NT. But I mean, we played pretty much the same teams. We were always playing Wheatfield and Newport. Played trot before they, I don't know if they dropped football or whatever, but yeah, I mean, that league stayed, from my perspective, it stayed pretty close to the same. I don't remember seeing much of a change. They did change it my senior year, and we eliminated a couple teams. Matter of fact, we didn't play Niagara Falls my senior year. But and they had a good year that year too. They were 6-2. That would have been a good game, but it was the size thing, I guess. I have no idea.
With that being the case, who were then considered your rivals?
They would have been. I mean, they beat us the year before. That was our 2-6 year, so I wanted to play them again. But they would have been a rival in Newport, because they always, they thumped us the year before, 36-0. And LaSalle we gave them a good game my sophomore year at Newport, but I would say Newport would have been the biggest one, and it kind of worked out perfect that it was the last game of the year too.
How much weight training did you do back in your high school days?
High school, just the universal gym. That was it. That's all we had. My senior year, we started doing free weights. In college, that was totally different. But it was just a simple universal gym. That's what we had back then.
Life was simpler at that point. I got to ask you this: in your high school and college career, how many concussions have you had, or do you think you had, or will readily admit to having?
I know of two. One was against Tonawanda my junior year. I'm pretty sure it was my junior. They had some running back. His name sounded like Gronkowski. Maybe you could come, I don't know, maybe, but he was a real good runner. And I went to tackle him, his knee to the head. And I just remember going to the sideline. It was a night game and looking across. It was was it Clint Small? What's the name of that field?
Clint Small Stadium.
I remember looking at the lights, and all the lights kind of went together. And I go, oh boy, this is not good. I remember that one. And I remember in college tackling the fullback head on. We butted heads like two rams. And I just went down on my hands and knees. And I just remember kind of like a hollow feeling in my head, just kind of like I was floating. So those are the two I remember. I'm sure there's probably more, but yeah, the helmets and stuff that we had back then weren't the best.
I was going to ask you about equipment. The helmet's probably the suspension type, and maybe bulky shoulder pads and all kinds of different hip pads and knee pads and thigh pads. Yeah,
I mean, all that was yeah. You had the suspension helmets, the straps, and then the leather piece on top. Towards my end of my college career, the water helmets were coming in. I never had one of those. Those things weighed a ton. And then there was the air helmets with the air pocket, the little pockets all the way through the whole thing. I can't remember I think I did use one of those at the end, but yeah, none of that stuff was. I mean, I look at I've Googled what they use now. It's night and day, and for obvious reasons.
You went on to play at Canisius. Did you get any other scholarship offers or any type of other interest to play college football?
I was looking at Ithaca, which was a top division. They were top Division III. They won the Alonzo Stag Bowl, quite often. I visited there. Coach Butterfield was there. I went there, and University of RIT, my bad. RIT. And I'm glad I didn't go to RIT. They dropped football after my sophomore year at Canisius, they dropped football. We played in their last game there. The worst conditions I ever played in it. It rained the night before, and then overnight it snowed. It was slush, and it was you would make a tackle and you would slide 5 yards, and one time down on the ground you're soaked. It just was no. It looks cool when you watch a game on TV, in the snow, but it's not. I didn't find it fun.
During your high school career, what were some of the better fields that you played on, and what were some of the worst fields?
Man, I don't know if I would say any of them were. I mean, they're all pretty much the same back then. I can't even think of any bad ones. Like I said, I think LaSalle was the nicest facility and field out of all of them. When I got into college, the worst field I ever played on was Canisius College practice field. It was horrible. It was it was hard. It was just terrible. Have you ever been there? I don't know if you've seen their facility now where they have softball and all that.
Yeah.
Well, that was when we were playing. That was just a dirt, half dirt, half grass. It was just one field, and where the bleachers are now, the big bleachers at Canisius, that was a city block of homes. The Canisius bought homes, the whole street, leveled it, and put up this beautiful facility, and then dropped football. So, go figure.
At Canisius, you ran into an old North Tonawanda coach and Chuck Williams.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Chuck Williams and how he influenced you, and maybe share a couple stories about Coach Williams.
Yeah, he was great. He was my position coach. I was a safety. He was a defensive back coach, and he was our defensive coordinator starting my sophomore year. So I had him for 3 solid years, and he was great. I told you the story. He was real intense. He's always thinking football. And one day he came into practice, and I noticed the back of his car was dented in. I said, "Coach, what happened?" He said, "Joel, I was trying to figure out this coverage that we're going to do this week, and I backed into a pole." Okay. Then another time he came to practice, and he's telling me the same thing. I'm driving. He goes, "I'm driving, and I'm thinking about he goes, and I look up, and I'm going through a red light." I'm going, "Man, you better settle down." But he was just a very intense guy, very focused on football. I mean, that was it. Well, you probably know it. He worked out a lot, so he was in shape. And he'd always roll up his sleeves a little bit in practice, And so our Coach Brooks called Coach Williams. He called him Coach Arms. But he was a great guy. Got to know him even after I used to work at a health club, and him and his wife would come in. Just a great guy. It was only recently that he passed, also.
Right.
I'm at one of our Canisius reunions a couple of years ago. He came when he was about 80 years old and still looked good. He was doing yoga and all this stuff. He kept physically active.
Who were some of the other coaches at that Canisius during your time at Canisius?
Well, Bill Brooks was our head coach. We had Coach Williams. Coach Hersey was there. He came in towards the end, and then he was a head coach after I left. He was there for a while. Trying to think who else. Coach Schaefer for receivers. Coach Harrison Winky. He played at Syracuse. Big dude. He was our conditioning coach. So he used to run us, and he was a character. I played. His brother played at LaSalle. Actually, he must have played at LaSalle. His brother Al played at LaSalle also, 2 years ahead of me. So we had a lot of high school coaches ended up going to Canisius in the college end of it.
Considering your career, would you do anything differently, your high school career and your college career?
No, I don't think so. No, I had a great time. I enjoyed every minute of it. The cool part, I don't think I mentioned with Canisius was my home field our senior year, so it would have been the 79 season, was War Memorial Stadium. So we were first time we went into the practice in there, I'm pretty sure the score was up 17-17 against the Jets. That was the last game that was played there, and I was there with my dad. And then to walk into this old stadium, it was it's kind of like a mini Coliseum. So it was like 44,000 seat Coliseum, and usually 43,000 of the seats were empty when we would play. But it was cool for these D3 teams to come, and it was kind of intimidating. Normally you're playing at a smaller scale place. But no, I loved it. I'm glad I went. A lot of good memories at Canisius. Loved it.
I got to tell you, we do have the Canisius Ithaca College game on our YouTube channel from the War Memorial in that 79 season. So you can go back and see it. You can do just a simple Google search and you'll find it. And you'll see it. And it was shot from heaven. That's how high up it was. I mean, for a game like that, it's perfect if you're a coach and you're going to be able to see who's running what schemes and what plays, because it's like looking at ants and it's all X and O's, X's and O's at that point. But I mean that was War Memorial Stadium and the Rock, So I mean it was what it was.
Yeah,
You
that'd be great. I'd love to do that. Yeah, that'd be great.
you started almost 40 years ago an award for Niagara Wheatfield, Newport, and Niagara Falls players. Talk about that. The name escapes me at this point, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, it's the Maximum Effort Award I started. It originally was for 5 schools: LaSalle, Niagara Falls, Newport, Wheatfield, and Niagara Catholic. Then Niagara Catholic dropped football, and the schools are combined. So anyways, we're down to like 2 or 3 now. When I'm an insurance agent, and when I got into business, I wanted to kind of stay somewhat connected to high school football, in a small way. So I wanted to come up with an award, but the award has nothing to do with skill, nothing to do with talent or achievement. It has everything to do with heart, attitude, and effort. I thought maybe it might inspire some kids to play it the right way. So anyways, I've given out, I did the math, it's like 130 some of these awards over the years. And I can give you verbatim what the award is. It says award winners are hard workers, have a positive attitude, never give up in tough situations, and provide inspirational leadership to their teammates through leading by example. So it's basically the kind of guys that I like to play with and the way I try to play the game. To me, I think a coach would probably love to have, like 40 guys with those attitudes. You could get by with average skill players with those attitudes, as opposed to some superstars here and there that are selfish and maybe quit or hang their heads during a game. That always drove me nuts. So I was trying to inspire the positive end of it. And I've had one kid that won, and he was a third stringer, never played a game. And I've had a number of kids that are all Western New York. It's all over the place. And I don't vote on it. I let the coaches get one vote, and so does every player. And every time I do the award, the coaches or the parents, whatever, people just say, yeah, he's a good kid. And that's what I hear almost every time. I just want to do a way to do something for the community and promote the positive way of going about playing a sport. So it's been a while. Yeah, it's almost, I think it's 37, 38 years now.
And that's commendable. After college, you've stayed in the area. You didn't leave Western New York or Niagara Falls, and you've become a successful insurance agent as well too. Do people come up to you and talk about the old days of playing high school football and I remember you, or has that ship sailed, or what is your relationship with the community regarding that and your is there a connection between you and your high school career and your business these days?
Oh yeah, and in that respect, because my office is in LaSalle. My office is actually on my old walk to school. I walk by here every day to LaSalle. Yeah, I mean, we do. I do community wise. I help every year. First, let me back up. We have a LaSalle Alumni Association that I'm a part of, and they do a lot of events. I run a golf outing every beginning of August for LaSalle alumni. We have a party on Friday night. We have an outdoor music festival. So I like getting people together. Some people hate reunions. I love them. I like getting back together with people and just seeing people. As Bob Seger said, see an old friend, it's good for the soul. And it really is. It just makes you feel better. So yeah, we do the LaSalle stuff all the time and try to keep the thought alive, because we don't have a school anymore. I mean, that sucks. That was brutal. I mean, you've been there. It was a beautiful school, fantastic facility, athletic facility in the back, huge amount of acreage, and they tore it down and it sat vacant for 10 years. That's the part that bothered me the most. It just sat there, no progress. And I'm thinking that this is better than our school, this field, but they tore it down, and now it's approximately where Walmart. The field was. It's where Walmart is, and Panera Bread. No, it's sad. It's sad to see it go. I can't go back to see a game at my old stadium. I mean, that's sad. It really is. They should have. I don't know about the progress, but when they put this new place together, they should have kept something of LaSalle there. Maybe the Niagara Falls Explorers, or kept some of these colors. One of the brown or gold. there's nothing about LaSalle now. It's the Niagara Falls Wolverines, blue, I think blue and white or whatever. It's like we gone. So it's very, very sad to drive by there and think of what was.
How does it feel when you get together for reunions and you know that there's no school? I mean, is it a somber mood? Is it what's the feeling on something like that? I haven't lost to high school, so I couldn't tell you what that feeling is. So that's why I ask you.
Yeah, no, it's never sad. It's always great. And it's always, I think it kind of brings us together more because we're going, this is all we got. That's all we have is each other. So we got hats and we got banners and we got all this stuff, but we don't have, but no, it's these weekends, it always starts on the first Friday in August. We get 120 some golfers. Friday night thing usually gets 200 people. We'll go out and watch a band that's usually LaSalle alumni in it. And the Sunday thing that the girls run for the outdoor music festival, it gets 400 plus people. I mean, it's just, so to answer your question, I think not having a school kind of brings us more together because we need each other. It's a good memory because we can't go by and look at the school.
In 2021, you became a member of the Niagara Falls Sports Hall of Fame. What does that mean to you?
It meant a lot because my dad's in it. That's the part that got me the most. Actually, when I walked up to do my little speech and acceptance thing, I started choking up for two reasons. Because of my dad, who passed away 7 years ago, and I saw my family and my friends that were there. And anyways, that's the part that's the best for me. It's kind of neat to be in it to begin with. But when my dad, me and him, I think there's a couple other fathers, sons in there now, and it's kind of cool. So yeah, they asked me this year to get involved with being on the board. So I'll be voting on this year's inductees in August. So pretty cool. When
you're out and about and not in Niagara Falls, and you run into people and start a conversation with them, and you get talking about your high school days and high school football at LaSalle, what do you tell people?
About that, I just tell them like I said, I just tell them I think I'm most proud of that 1 year out of all, because it came from nowhere. The following year, after I graduated, they won it all. They went 7-0-1. So those 2 years are probably the best in the school's history. Can't confirm that, but I know they had some really good teams early 60s, but we won 14-1-1 in 2 years. I wasn't a part of the second year, and set every record, every offense, defensive record. And I'm proud of the fact that we brought that from nowhere. So when we talk, that's what I bring up. My senior year, my one buddy gave the analogy. He goes, we got that big boulder that had been sitting there for years. We got that boulder moving. And then the next year they took it to the house and won the whole thing. They had one tie, 7 wins and a tie. So that's something to be proud of. I think the next year was 4-4, and then it kind of evened off again. So that blip was us. It makes me feel good.
We've talked about several things so far. What would you like to talk about that I haven't brought up?
Whoa, my grandkids. I got 2 little grandkids that I'm loving. Bo and Graham. It's everything's good now. I'm getting close to the retirement number. I'm get 65, so getting close. Trying to think what else to talk about. I mean, that's pretty much it. It was just it was fun. Football was the big thing. We did track 1 year. That was interesting and fun. So I did a lot of everything. I just went from one sport to the other. It was a blast. I love music. My brother's a fantastic musician. People go, did you play anything? And I go, no, I never had time. I couldn't play. I was when football, baseball, basketball, boom, whatever was going on. I don't think I ever had any, downtime to learn that. So maybe when I retire, who knows? What's that?
When you get together with your former classmates and your teammates, do the stories get better?
Yeah, we get better. We win more games, score more points. Well, it's just cool. I mean, it does. Everybody embellishes as you get older, and it's the past was always better than the current. It's always like that. But no, I think we keep it real. on both sides, like I say, those two teams, we just, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that other than we probably do embellish. We probably do.
Terrific. Joe Holka, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel. I wish you well, good health to you, continued success in your business, and retirement is not too far away. So enjoy it while you can. It gets better when you get retired. Trust me.
I believe you. So thank you very much. This was very cool to do and very fun. I appreciate it.